Hello, my comrades in capitalism. Now, I know you've read the title and you're thinking, what? Benny Shapiro's is a great man, a God-fearing man, a red-blooded American. How could he possibly support the communism? Well, that's how I felt too. But you have to know these lefties. They're smart, they're well organized, and they are evil. After hearing something from Mr. Shapiro, so shocking, it made me question whether he could be a leftist infiltrator, diluting our pure conservative American with evil leftism. Remember to always be on the lookout for leftists pretending to be conservative. The first step should always be know thy enemy. To do that, we'll have to define communism. If you want one of those well-nuanced and comprehensive views of communism, I suggest you read not only the works of Marx and Engels, but later leftist thinkers such as Simone de Beauvoir, who wrote her book, The Second Sex, that women are real people and should have the opportunity to live like real people. Could you imagine that leftist nonsense? It's always been there, always will be. But, just goddamn lefties. If you want a basic understanding of communism, read the Communist Manifesto. Now, as I already said, know thy enemy. So I strongly encourage you to do so. So I'm going to leave a link in the description to the Communist Manifesto. However, I'm a realistic man, so I know that not all of you are going to read the Communist Manifesto. So if you want just the clearest definition of communism there is a set of evil ideologies where they believe that workers should own the means of production. What does that mean? Hell if I know. But here's an example to help you think it over. In a God-fearing capitalist factory, they're the workers, and then slightly above the workers, there's a supervisor who's paid a little bit more to feel self-important, as God intended, and then above them makes almost all the profit. There are the shareholders, the people who own stock in the factory. Now, they don't work in the factory, but that's besides the point. This is the path of God, this is the path of America, and this is the path of capitalism. But in a devil-fearing commie factory, there aren't any shareholders at all. I know, pure chaos, no shareholders. How do the workers work without shareholders? I can't know, I can't imagine Atlas shrugging like that. But they own all the factory together. I know, it's terrible. Goes against the will of God. It's unnatural. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is all well and good to know about enemy, to define communism and all that. But what does this have to do with Benny Shapiro, with Mr. Shapiro, and his possible link to communism? Well, I couldn't believe it at first either. But I was watching Mr. Shapiro's fantastic critique of the worst song ever written, John Lennon's Imagine, and he said some things that really shook me to my core.
Private property ownership, the idea of labor, the idea of owning what you produce, is one of the greatest goods ever discovered in the history of civilization. We would all be hunter-gatherer, nomad peoples with no history, and we'd all die at 30 if it weren't for human civilization and private property ownership and the incentive that suggests that you own what you produce.
Now, when Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, I never bothered to learn the difference between the two. We're talking in the section Private Property and Communism in their book, The German Ideology. They say, and I quote, "For it to become an intolerable power, i.e. a power against which men make revolution, it must necessarily have rendered the great mass of humanity propertyless." Now, I don't know about you, but Mr. Shapiro seems awfully sympathetic to the communist cause in his clip to me. The incentive that suggests you own what you produce, he says, that is the greatest discovery in the world. Here in capitalist America, I don't know that many people who own what they produce. There have to be more factory workers than owners. That's just how capitalism works. And if the Ben Shapiro of the world got a problem with that, they should just move on over to Cuba.